What's up? So this is on the back of my last video. Now, I'm going to be changing gears entirely. And I'm going to be talking more about what I deem to be the mother of all issues on the planet. Because I think this is really more conducive to stuff like global warming, diminished resources, depression, recession. I could go on, but I'm not gonna just tease you here. I'm talking about overpopulation, and I'm talking about parents who really aren't ready to have kids, having kids, neglecting them, and just creating more garbage human beings. Please, don't do that. Don't have a kid to save your marriage. You are compromising their lives to try and save yours. That's incredibly selfish. Not just selfish, stupid. And please, be careful. Use contraception when you're young. I know way too many people, way too many of my friends growing up had kids, weren't ready. And, oddly enough, some of them are great parents now. But that completely derailed their whole lives in the process. Others, not so great parent-wise. And, the majority of the problems on the planet can be boiled down to the existence and the perseverance, and more like the gross procreation of our species. We are we're running ourselves into another dust bowl because we are mining phosphorus out of the soil. And we need agriculture to sustain ourselves at this point because there's so many of us. Yes, our species, we waste a really absurd amount of agriculture on products like, soy. Stuff we really don't need, and that is really not good for the planet. But, a human being is responsible for, I think it's like 40 metric tons of carbon every year we exist. And perhaps I'm slightly biased because I was brought up as an only child from parents who, were fairly intelligent. And I ultimately admire them for doing this. At the time, though, as a kid, I was like, yo, Mom, Daddy, where's my brother? Where's my sister? I want a brother. I want a sister. And they're like, no, that's not happening. Here's the thing. My parents were, divorced multiple times over. Before they married. They had me at a pretty old age. And they're like, no, see, they explained to me while I'm older, where I could actually, grasp this idea that, yes, the world's overpopulated and we're not going to try to grossly contribute to it, because if we have one child and we die off, boom, it works out. It works out overall. And so I'm beyond grateful that they were not complicit in this excessive number of people out there that are just consuming, really not giving much back to balance the equation. And I also think there's a tremendous amount of hubris that goes into having a kid. And it's really, it comes from ideas that are ultimately antiquated. We just do not need to practice the levels of reproduction that people who are, like plagued by typhoid and all these other like ghastly diseases did not have access to medical care, that like nothing close to what we did, had to survive grueling winters and whatnot, without, you know, internal heating, uh, and that's the thing. Like, we are still having children like those people back in the 1800s. They were just doing that because, like, they were lucky if one or two made it. And plus, that was back when the idea was that these kids would take over your business and then they would take care of you when you got older. And it also stems from, these religious ideas of our tribe is dwindling. We need to make our tribes bigger. And when they say our tribe's dwindling, typically that's not even the case. They just want more of their tribe. So they have more of them than, the group that it believes practically the same thing, just with some minor historical differences. But that's enough of a differentiation to create this like absurd competition. So by playing into that game and having a ton of kids, because those ideas are implanted, and the like social consciousness, you are playing right into that hand. You are, whether you support, say, the church or not, carrying on their practices. They advocate or they condone. Be fruitful and multiply. And like really, where did this idea come from that we need to have little copycats of ourselves running around? Like, why is that so special? Like, why do you have so much more of a connection with that child than you would with, say, one that you adopt and you raise from the time they're a baby? And don't tell them that you're not their parents. I mean, maybe you have an obligation to tell them that at some point. I would say you probably should, but just hypothetically. Oh, why? Because it grew inside you, or it came from your load. Give me a break, man. Like, half of that's you, half of that's your partner. You're getting a little slice of you in that. And what if what you see you don't like? There's a dangerous lack of foresight, I think, in having children a lot of the time. I think people prepare maybe for, at most, the first few years. That's if they're really prepared. And then either they just stop caring, or just shit doesn't go as planned for those first few years, and it completely displaces them from ever thinking we should do this in a regimented way, from the jump to the finish point. It's just insanely mind-boggling that this is an issue that is almost taboo to talk about, because it is behind every issue in the planet. Every shortage we have. Too much people. Every time you're stuck in traffic. Too much people. Every time you look at the sky and you see all that pollution, carbon. Too many people. Please. If you really want to have a kid, say you're a guy or whatever, shoot a load into a cup, freeze it, get a vasectomy, do it when you're ready. And on the other hand, there are plenty of perfectly reasonable, nice children out there that don't have good homes because their parents were shitty parents. And, you would be doing the planet more of a favor if you adopt them and you take the onus on yourself to steer them into a positive direction and do like rewrite all the wrongs essentially that their parents, and again, there are cases where it's understandable if the parent was raped, for example. I get it if you don't want to have that kid. That's totally understandable. A lot of it, though, I think a lot of kids in foster homes, and the thing is, a lot of my friends growing up were their parents were foster parents. Doesn't mean they were foster children. I mean, a couple of my friends were, but my friends, their parents worked as foster parents, so they would have foster children there, and most of these kids, it was because of stuff like drug addiction. Parents it's probably a good thing the parents didn't have the children because it would have messed them up invariably. And yeah, so, if you adopt and you take it upon yourself to do a good job and to teach that children, a set of morals, instill confidence in them, watch them grow into individuals who are, in a way, a reflection of you. I think that is beyond admirable, and I think it's much more admirable than popping out one of your own and going, oh, look, it's a little me. aren't I so special? There is nothing special about having yourself a child. There really isn't at the end of the day, because that's what people have been doing for a long time, and it is just kowtowing to what terrible, tyrannical organizations like the Catholic Church are. That's what they want. That's what they want. Even if you're not Catholic or whatever, they want, that be fruitful and multiply idea to be perpetuated. So you're truly not making that independent of a decision. Because in psychology, there's an idea, and this is one of my favorite ideas in psychology, that we are not a self. We are an accumulation of conditioning. That means is essentially everything empirical we've experienced through life and been exposed to has kind of tacked itself onto us, and that's built up this illusion of self. Whether that's true, I don't know, but it is true to a very large extent. I can say that much just speaking personally. And yeah, so this idea that you need to have as many kids as possible is part and parcel with your conditioning, and on a biological level too. We don't need to screw to the point of saving the species. Our species is doing fine by the numbers. We're doing better than fine as far as us being around for a while. Right now, our only threat are ourselves. And so please consider, not procreating. And I'll be honest, with my first girlfriend in high school, I had a pregnancy scare. She ended up getting an abortion, but it wasn't mine. Because, and I'm honestly surprised that I haven't had any more than that. Actually, no, I'm not. I've been pretty careful, with the number of women that I've been with. I've never liked condoms. They always make my wiener hurt. But I would always be like, are you on birth control? Yes. Are you sure? And if there was a male birth control pill, I would take it tomorrow. You bet your boots. Hell, I'd probably get a vasectomy if I could afford it. No, I would. Because I'm not having kids, and I have my own reasons for that. Some of which I won't get into, but yeah, I can tell you that in that area, I'm going to be someone who practices what I preach. With my last girlfriend, we were even talking about how, we wanted to live together for the rest of our lives, but we didn't want to play into what institutions wanted out of us. So, for example, marriage. We weren't going to get married. We were going to live in a civil union. Kids, if we ever did want some, which we didn't, we were going to adopt. And, there was a part of me who's like, how are my patty ass Irish genes going to look spliced with this beautiful first generation Canadian Korean woman? There's a part of me that's curious, but I was always like, yeah, maybe not well, for all I know. Maybe our kids would be ugly as fuck. Yeah, something I decided after some rumination I didn't need to know. If you want to find out how you look with a partner, maybe go to one of those genetic, like, fertilization places or whatever it is now, where like you can like tweak your child's features, which isn't a scary monkey's paw, careful what you wish for kind of situation. This is an episode of Outer Limits, but like, you can do that, have an idea. Oh, okay, so that's what it would look like. Great, thanks for your time. You save yourself a lot of money in the process, a lot of resources too, and you'd be able to live unfettered by the responsibility of having a child, which, let's be real, most people, no matter how wealthy, how together they seem to be, are not capable of that. They're just not. I'm certainly one of them, so I am not, like, I'm not calling the kettle black here. I'm not being a hypocrite. If I was to have a child tomorrow, I would be fucked, and that child would be fucked. Big reason why I'm not having one. And why I never want to have one. I want to live without the guilt of knowing that I am contributing to the big issue no one talks about. Over fucking population. Now, if you have kids by now, fine, whatever. Maybe, it's not something you can reverse, obviously. I guess you could, but I'm not saying, go pop, pop, pop. Oh, hey, Jimmy, are you awake? Sorry to wake you with the noise. Pop. No. Too late for an abortion. But like, just know that wasn't necessarily a free decision on your part. That was part of circumstance. That was part of conditioning. Maybe a little part of you, but just keep in mind that, maybe the ones you have are more than enough. Now, again, I'm not trying to insult anyone here. I don't think it's necessarily fully incumbent on people who already have children to acknowledge their crime against humanity. Because, again, they are following programming. What I'm trying to do here is break programming. And you know what? Abortion? We gotta stop ragging on that. Really. Like, how many lives we've saved, just not in terms of the women, but lives that would have been ruined by homes that couldn't support them, or lives that would have had to grow up in the foster care system if it wasn't for abortion. Like, really, abortion is ultimately good for the planet. And what is the big thing keeping it from, like, really helping people? It is religious ideology. This moral rectitude, holier than thou, higher than thou idea that I'd never needed an abortion. These people need an abortion. Like, you know what? Fuck those people. Fuck pro-life people. I'm a big fan of Bill Hicks, and I've always agreed with him there. Like, not only should abortion be subsidized by the government and covered, and yeah, I get there could be a slippery slope there, but maybe, like if we're measured about how you do it, probably not. And that is just the key to a lot of issues. It's not just doing it, it's how you do it. Just be smart about it. like, I feel silly having to explain this, but there are a lot of people who truly don't get it. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think it should be not just subsidized, but it should be encouraged for parents who aren't ready. I could go on, but I won't, unless you really want me to. Um, and feel free to argue against my points. Feel free to try and open up a discussion here, because, this is an issue that I think is very, very important. And I hate this, like, just this egotistical mentality that most people have, where they're like, oh no, that's a taboo topic. That's not an appropriate thing to talk about. They're just playing out their programming, and it's pathetic. Overpopulation and the ideas behind it that are generating it, I think, really lend themselves to the proliferation of not just the species, but the biggest lie ever, which is that it's a good thing. And on that note, great book that very much helped to flesh out these ideas that were already in my head is, what is it called? Let me find it for you just so butcher the author's name. It's, I believe, The Conspiracy Against the Human Race by Thomas Ligotti. See, I got it before I even looked it up. It is a great book. It is, like, very dark. It's, it's pessimistic philosophy, so, duh. But it was what really inspired a lot of the ideas that Russ Cole talks about in the first season of True Detective. To the point of it almost being like copy and pasted, but at the same time it was done so well in the first season of True Detective that I'll give Pizzolatto, the writer, a pass on that. But yeah, Conspiracy Against the Human Race by Thomas Ligotti, check it out. And I'm not getting a sponsorship or anything from this. I'm just saying this is a good book. You should read it if you're into philosophy and you're an anti-natalist like me. Anti-natalist meaning you're against procreation. Anyways, I'm gonna stop myself here. Have a good day. I know this is a bit more risque of the subject matter, but that's okay, because it's something I will talk about to anyone, any day, anyway. Keep it real. Bye-bye.